Tell me about your wedding.
First, I got to start with the wedding day before the wedding. Again, I grew up in a neighborhood full of kids. Pranks were the biggest thing in our neighborhood. Now, many of our parents grew up in Philly, so there is a deep streak of pranks that are on the epic scale. When we were kids, the marinas across the street, Babe Marina had a keg of beer on tap all the time. I'm telling you, we're probably 8 or 9 years old. We'd go play baseball, come back, and have a frosted mug of beer. That was a typical thing in the summertime in particular. So the day of my wedding, they said, Joey, let's have one more swim in a beer before you get married. We went to Whole Shoes Pool, which was right next to the Marina's house. No sooner did I get in there and get my first sip of beer, they ganged up on me and took my bathing suit off. Now I'm butt naked in the pool. The crowd begins to gather. You know, what's going on? Oh, Joey Sepielli is naked in the Whole Shoes Pool. There's a stockade fence. You can see all the little faces peering over, trying to get a glimpse of what's going on in there. I'm kind of getting upset because I don't have a watch on. I don't know what time it is. I know it's getting close to me having to go over to Cross Keys near Williamstown in New Jersey for the wedding. I'm getting more and more angry because nobody's giving me any relief. Somebody threw me a pair of little blue panties. I found out baby Linda, she said those were her panties. So I could not get them on. I got them up to my knees. I was crushing my testicles. It was tough. And then at some point, I'm already giving a big blanket FU to the whole neighborhood because I didn't want to have anything to do with any of these people. Here they're making me late for my wedding. And I'm cussing out some of the guys in my, groomsmen in my wedding. My best man, Paul Marina, Carmel Marina, they were all there, the Faulkner twins. So at some point, somebody threw me a small towel. It wasn't like a tea towel. It was like a small towel you'd have in the bathroom. It barely covered. I come around the fence with the towel on. The Faulkner twins and Marinas are all standing out in the street. They're all athletes. I was in the band. These guys aren't quite as smart as the band people. They're standing in the street expecting me to go to my house. No, I'm smarter than them. I hung a left along the stockade fence, hung a left up Marina's driveway, was about to enter the back door of the Marina's house when a Faulkner, I could hear the footprints running up after me. As I got to the back door, the towel comes off. Now I got a decision. I could go back into the neighborhood where everybody was assembled, or I could go into the Marina's house, into the great unknown. I had no idea what was going on. Little did I know what was going on was what looked like the Last Supper to me. The table was spread out in the kitchen. There was a bunch of Marina relatives and Mattios that are up in there. I don't think any one of them had their back to me. They were all on the side of the table facing me, standing there in the foyer of their back door there, butt naked. The way I remember, none of them Italians were impressed. It was August, but I remember it was kind of chilly that day. So I finally duck into their mud room. They had a little bathroom right there. Somehow, I don't remember much. The rest is a blur. Now I make it to the church. My hair is soaking wet. I'm standing up there. The organ's doing bump, 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 bump for Heather to come down the aisle. Mrs. Marina, a big lady, comes waddling up to her. She says, don't marry this guy, because I saw him today. And she goes like this. Heather pulls up next to me, and she looks at me. She says, why is your hair wet? What's going on? I'll explain later. So pretty much that was, but the next interesting thing about that wedding was we were married by Reverend Boshier. I hope I said his name. He looked exactly like Abraham Lincoln. He had freakishly long fingers. That's one thing I remember. When you shook his hand, you didn't get past the second knuckle. You got nowhere near the palm. His fingers were that long. My family had never been to that church. It was a Methodist church. We did some church shopping. At the time, I was Catholic. Heather wasn't. She was in between churches at the time. So she picked out a nice church across Keys out in the country. But we really liked Reverend Bushell. He did a great job of marriage counseling and such. My family had never seen this guy before. This is where they have the graves are right there in the churchyard. I think they call it a graveyard when it's right at the church. The back door behind the chapel, the altar rather, back door opens. What looks like Abraham Lincoln comes walking in the back door from the cemetery. My entire family gasped. You can hear. I'm confident that the cars that were lent to us, because this was during the gas crisis, nobody had any gasoline. I think we had 2 or 3 of these black Lincoln Town cars that I'm pretty sure were mob cars. There's no guarantee. Those were somehow miraculously appeared. That's what drove us back to our reception at the Paulsboro volunteer fire department, where my dad was a member. We had a beautiful reception there. The typical Italian, you got a bunch of groomsmen and a bunch of bridesmaids. You're at one end and there's a long table. The ladies' auxiliary catered a nice meal of stuffed shells and different things. My dad was on the roof fixing the air conditioner, broke down in the middle of the reception. In those days, the bride and groom had to walk around to greet everybody at the reception. The bride had a little pouch on her arm. There was stuffed money and checks in there. It was kind of awkward because there were relatives that I had no idea who they were. Never seen them before. As me and Heather going around, we're both trying to think, I hope you know them. I hope you know. No. Thank you so much for coming, because there was a good handful of people. I think we had 200 people at that wedding. It was nice. We drank too much. We stayed late. We got ready for our cruise the next day, leaving out of New York. We stayed at I think it was like the Hilton Inn in Cherry Hill. I told you this neighborhood was full of pranks. Nobody knew where we were staying, because otherwise they would have really pranked us. We parked our car at the hotel. I think took a bus to New York City and got on our cruise. When we got back a week later, we found that they got into Heather's car. They put an entire fish under the front seat. That car, wherever that car is, I assume it's crushed. We gave it to my brother not long after rather, because that's the kind of pranks these jerks would do. They put a dead fish in your car. Somehow that's luck. Pretty much that's it. That's about a string of 5 different stories. Awesome. It was fun. It was definitely memorable.
Thanks, Dad.
Mm-hmm.